it's Lindsay from Side by Side Learning, and I wanted to share with you guys this little mini unit that we did. Now, I bought this book at the beginning of the year because we were going into 2020, so I thought, let's learn about the 20s. It'll be awesome. So we got this book, and then we started reading it, and it's really good. I highly recommend it. But oh my goodness, with 2020 and all the craziness that's going on, this book blew my mind, because I always hear that history repeats itself. Like, that's a common phrase that you hear, and that you need to understand history so that you can move forward. Totally agree. This book just like hit the nail on the head for so many different things, and I'm going to tell you what really stood out to me, and how we were able to talk to my kids about some of the things that are happening now, just from this book, from the Roaring Twenties. Second chapter is all about after the Great War, and guys, look at this picture. It's talking about the Spanish flu, and about how so many people got sick, how they just had a little flu, and then all of a sudden they couldn't breathe, and how lots of people lost their jobs, and the government was trying to help, and that it did end up that the government was able to restart the economy, but it took a long time. Whoa! Another thing that happened in this book was the Harlem Renaissance. It's what became known as the Great Migration, and it was all about segregation and the Jim Crow laws. Okay? Racism is huge right now. It's massive. Last week there was riots like crazy. There needs to be a change. A big change. And so I was glad that we were able to talk a little bit about how racism was in the past, how it still is occurring now, and how we need to do better. All from this book. The other thing that it talked about was farmers, and how farmers had been making so much produce to keep up with the war that when the war ended, they had so much overstock that they didn't know what to do with, and they couldn't sell it, so they ended up just throwing it away. And if you've paid attention to the news, you know that that is happening. In Idaho, it's insane. Montana's throwing away a bunch, and in Canada, they're throwing away a ton of milk. Like, history is repeating itself. So after we read this book, I was like, oh man, it was eye-opening in a good way and in a bad way. Just because I wanted to be in my like bubble of happiness and not have to think about all of the craziness that was happening. But 2020 has shattered so many of those thoughts, and we've had to readjust a lot of our mindset and how we encounter things. And even at the beginning of COVID, we were out of a job for a while. My husband got his job back, but it was going to be intense for a little while. So then I got out this book, The Great Depression, from the library, because I was like, well, maybe we need to learn from history a little bit more and be prepared. So this one was another exciting book to read. So in the Great Depression, it talked about banks going under, people losing like their jobs, like their farms, because they couldn't sell anything so that they couldn't keep up. And it also talked about homeless people and how that was a major problem, and people were just kind of traveling around trying to find any job that they could. Last thing that I wanted to talk about this book that came up was the Dust Bowl. Because right now they're expecting huge dust storms in the US, and I think it's going to come up too.
Very huge.
Yes, very huge. So this was really eye-opening for me and also for my kids. I'm hoping that things turn around really quick and that our economy doesn't collapse and we end up in a different depression era. But I do know that reading these types of books has been able to prepare us for some things that are possible, so that we can have the things that we need and change our minds from, oh, I want that, I need that, instead of actually like, do you actually need that? Because lots of times you don't actually. And I do not want to be one of those crazy people who runs out and buys 9,000 rolls of toilet paper, or is like, oh crap, I don't know how to cook anything, or we don't have any flour, or whatever. There's lots of things that you can do to prepare for the unknown future. And one thing you can do to prepare is to learn history. And these books are fantastic. So hit the subscribe button to see more of me and this goof here. Thanks for joining us.
Bye.